Still on APR exclusive, we are going to be discussing outside the political and economic effects of coronavirus.
First of all, let's take a look at the history of human coronavirus. My name is Elvis Oga.
I am Josephine Paul.
Coronavirus of human origin have emerged as probable important etiologic agent of acute upper respiratory tract in adult
virus as far back as 1965, where the scientists Tyrone and Byron discovered this virus, B814.
The first case of human coronavirus.
The first case of human coronavirus was discovered in 1965 by the scientists Tyrone and Byron. So we get to realize that this virus actually played effect on the human system.
Yes, and the first strand of human coronavirus that was found at about that time is the B814 strand.
The B814 strands. And where we get to notice that the virus actually had effect on the human umbilical trachea.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'll just tell you that this is a respiratory tract disease where it creates difficulty in breathing, cases like pneumonia, sneezing, coughing.
And it was common with their body system as a result of the cold season as at that year.
It's quite pertinent to point out that before then, coronavirus has been in existence, but it was found in animals.
It was found more in animals. Now the question is, how could this virus transmit from the animals to the humans? Like now we can record cases of coronavirus as at now. So that's to say that most of the countries, like take for instance China, they were feeding on this species of animals. So as a result of that, this virus actually transmitted from the animals to the human body system.
And then it's quite surprising how people panic and then feel as if COVID-19 is the first case of coronavirus. But we just point out the fact that before then, we had cases of coronavirus in 1965.
Just imagine the year 1965, as far back as 1965.
And then in 2003 through 2005,
yes, a second case
there was another wave of coronavirus. It was recorded at about that time. And then other strains of coronavirus,
like the 0C47 and 2298. These were the viruses that were discovered by different scientists. Not to talk more of Tyrone and Byron. Different scientists actually observed and noticed and discovered more of the viruses. So that's to tell you that as just like living things, these viruses evolve, they change constantly, and we cannot really give exact accurate number of these viruses of different pace in time. But that's to say that as the year goes, different cases of viruses are being recorded.
Talking about the COVID-2 SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome. Then it was recorded that it affected both the infants and the adult. But in 1965, it was majorly
on the adults.
On the adult.
With that, for instance, diseases like pneumonia was recorded. It was common with the cold system with the adults at that year, 1965.
And then one other thing that we noted about coronavirus is that it has been shown to be associated with a substantial number of adult respiratory illness, especially during certain periods. That's to tell you that the susceptibility of humans to this virus is not the same all year round.
It's not the same.
Like it's high during the winter, spring.
Yes, more than the summer, fall. Like when the place is hot, like the summer season, when the whole place is filled with heat. This virus cannot, operate as at that time. Now look at that year, 2003 to 2005. We discovered that this virus had effect on the younger infants, or the younger children rather, where the children with a stronger immune system were prone,
competent infants in their first year of life.
Exactly, they were prone to having this virus.
And then on the other hand, it was the adults with the immunocompromised system.
The weaker immune system.
Yeah, that were affected majorly.
When I was going through this research, I just tend to wonder how the parents of this, younger children would have felt, because this virus tend to attack them during their first year of life.
One good thing is that I don't know if it's all about the awareness way back then, because the panic was not much then. Maybe probably because the virus didn't gain much prominence.
It didn't gain much prominence then.
So, and then in 2003 through 2005, during the COVID-2 era, it was contained to an extent. So we don't see people talk about that much. So probably the parents were not that agitated or worried.
Like it's popularly known COVID-19. Most people might just think it just began in the year 2019. Do you understand? But this virus has actually belonged has begun a long time ago, 1965 and 2003, 2005.
Okay, talking about the different strand of coronavirus that were found in 1965, it was the B814 that was found.
Yes.
And then in 2003 through 2005, the whole of them were found. About 31 different strands of coronaviruses were found.
And what's interesting is that in the space of 3 months, January through March,
that's the peak.
This virus actually was suspended. It was actually was constantly substituted. Like the virus actually was low. There was a low information about the virus. It was not really impromptu. Like at a particular point in time, the virus case was actually subsidized. Like people didn't
and
really
the statistics we have here
it.
is that about 823 people were admitted during the COVID-2 era. And then you see that when these different strands of human coronaviruses were discovered, that's the point I wanted to make before your cutting.
Yeah.
You see, people actually see that, okay, these different strains, there are some of them that have co-infection of human coronavirus.
Yes.
Co-infection, more like you can still have pneumonia and have coronavirus. You can still have cough and have coronavirus. That is why when there is any suspicion, you don't just conclude.
Yes.
You go see a doctor.
Yeah, because of the rate of panic and fear in the hearts of people. All right, so let's go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll give you more history of the coronavirus pandemic.
What are your Saturdays like?
Are you doing your laundry?
Are you going to the salon?
Are you on your way to the market?
Or attending a wedding?
Well, whatever it is,
we at African Patriot Radio
will be with you every step
of the way.
With interesting programs such as
Now Who Wed?
Aviation Africa,
Tales by African Children,
and of course the interesting and controversial
Guys Talk, only on African Patriot Radio.
Welcome back to APR Exclusive. So before we take a break, we're talking about the history of coronavirus, and with me in the studio is Elvis. So Elvis, when we get to talk about the different strands of these viruses, we get to talk about in 1965 where the first case of coronavirus.
You've got a good memory. That's exactly what the point I wanted to drive home.
Yes,
before.
The first case where the coronavirus was actually noticed is B814. And then coming over to 2003, 2005, the second case of coronavirus. So let's get to talk more about that.
Okay,
case.
The different strand of coronavirus.
Yes.
I told you about 31 different strands were found in the COVID-2 era. And then about 10 of these cases happens to do with a human molecular cells, and then the remainder, which has to be 21 of them, were in the monocellular structures. Now, before we move forward, let's take a look at ways where these coronavirus can be brought to the barest minimum. And the use of a multiple primer set is highly recommended. It's
really
for diagnosis of all types.
Yes, it's highly recommended. One would actually have to take, the availability of accurate kits to test for these viruses has to be taking measures. Everyone has to understand that these kits are required to take accurate tests of this virus
to know who is infected. And that is where they call for the provision of the mask, hand sanitizers,
and all of this. All this boils down to the preventive measures. Exactly we're talking about.
Yes.
So that one would not just think one is positive, just like that with the virus. So these kits has to be available.
Okay, and in addition to that, the detection of still untypable human coronavirus might further increase, but this is not to scare people. This is more like a wake-up call to all scientists out there to get to work.
Yes, because more research needs to be done.
Exactly.
This is trying to let us know that there are more viruses that are prone to come up, but then one has no reason to be scared. Instead,
that point my attention back to what the pulse of people are, that they feel the coronavirus is man-made. But we can't categorically state that because viruses are part of the ecosystem.
Yeah, part of the ecosystem. Like
every disease has its own constitutive agent or organism. We have bacteria, fungi, or fungus.
And yes, most of these diseases actually live on the inside of us, on the cells of us. Yes. So just like living things, like I said earlier, these viruses evolve. The change in constant timing.
That is where the different strands of the coronavirus comes in.
So the preventive measures one needs to take has just been rapidly informed to the world. Like, take for instance quarantining. One needs to, quarantine, stay at home if you have any symptom of any of this. If you feel sick, rather.
Can we just start from the simple to the complex, just like they do in gymnastics?
Exercises.
Like sneezing to your elbow.
Yes, too.
Avoid, keep contact as minimal as possible. Maintain social distance.
Maintain social distance. Talking about isolation, most people would not just want to stay at home, but these are all the preventive measures one needs to observe. Stay at home if you're feeling sick, and also take measures like encourage social distancing. Do not be found in gatherings.
The most important
where
thing is what we're doing now. Sensitize the people to know what to do and what not to do.
Exactly.
Okay, Josephine, so any parting words from you?
Like we just said, the preventive measures is what is important. Follow the preventive measures. Stay at home if you have any symptoms of feeling sick, or I actually encourage social distancing. Don't find yourself in crowded environments. I mean, you don't know who has
I know
this thing.
socialites are going to find this very hard.
Very hard. But we don't know who has this thing. So it's advisable that one actually stays, indoors, in isolation, can stay at home and all that. So, and also always move around with your mask is very, very important.
Exactly.
Yes, just to cover yourself from all of these dust, because it's said that coronavirus is an airborne disease. When one gets to sneeze or to cough, these drop pills might actually, come in contact with another person, and one can be prone to this disease.
That is the fastest mode of transmission.
That's the fastest.
This.
So that's all I can say. Like, stay at home, go through take preventive measures about this. Quarantining is very important. Wash your hands is very important with antiseptic or sanitizer. Using of them is very important.
In order not to run through the same thing Josephine has actually said, from me, don't hesitate to call the toll lines whenever you feel any suspicion, you have any suspicion.
And that's the much we can take on the history of coronavirus. I'll be moving over to Messi Joe and Susan, who will be giving us the recent times history of coronavirus. I'm Josephine Paul.
And I am Elvis Oga.